Aloha. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good life together in the Nembutsu. Thank you for joining us for this, well, in my case, the final virtual Sangha service that I'll be leading for the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, because as many of you are aware, I'll be retiring as of August 31st and then moving on. So this is the opportunity I have to offer this final message of connection and to acknowledge the past 11 and a half years of engaging with this Sangha. Now we're engaging in a very unique way, but it is still an engagement. It is still a way of connecting. So again, thank you for being here in this virtual form. So for today's service, we're going to have a recitation by my daughters from wherever they are on this planet in the virtual form, and they'll be leading the recitation of the Golden Puzzle of Love and Life. And then I'll offer my Dharma reflection for this service. And then there'll be a meditative reading, again offered by my daughters, that will relate to the idea of how we're like little candles in which we receive light and we pass that light to those we interact with. And then after the closing, we're going to have a special musical presentation by Akemi Yoshimoto, based on the Japanese song Arigato. And so with that, we'll begin today's Buddhist Church of San Francisco virtual Sangha service for August 30th, or whenever you happen to be able to view it. Okay? So take care. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
I am a piece in the golden puzzle that is Amida's immeasurable light and light that connects the world.
I will try to keep my puzzle piece bright, aware, and strong, fair.
I will try to be kind and honest with all beings, including myself.
I will try to be aware of my self-centered thoughts, to offer clear and helpful words, and to do kind and helpful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only on my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others.
Ready? Ready? May every piece in Amida Buddha's golden puzzle of life and light be bright and strong.
And may we all realize and become perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namanda, 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 namanda. Sambujo. respectfully acknowledge the presence of Amida Tathagata entering this Dharma hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome. Ojo Shakanyorai Miudo Jo Saten We respectfully acknowledge the presence of Shaka Tathagata entering this Dharma hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome. Ojo Jiponyorai Niudo Jo Saten We respectfully acknowledge the presence of Tathagatas of the Universal 10 Directions entering this Dharma hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome.本日ここにサンフランシスコ仏教会世襲となり、うやうやしく三仏牽制の将来を仰ぎ、慎みてこのお務め、毎週お務めを言修する、如来へこの真実心をもって、法恩の誠をいたし、仏徳を賛嘆し祀る。恋願わくば如来の大慈大悲心をもって無料の功徳一切至上の上にへこしたまおらんことを Today, on the occasion of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco's weekly virtual Sangha Service, we reverently gather in the spirit of oneness of immeasurable light and life, Amida Buddha. With deepest reverence and gratitude for the all-inclusive wisdom and compassion that is Amida Buddha, we reaffirm the three treasures. Namu Kie Butsu, we take refuge in the Buddha, the timeless life of wisdom and compassion, which is the source of awakening. Namu Kie Ho, we take refuge in the Dharma, the universal truth of impermanence and interdependence, the illuminating light that is the Buddha's wisdom. Namu Kie So, we take refuge in the Sangha, the community of people dedicated to living harmoniously in the universal truth, a life manifesting Buddha's compassion. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman. Bussetsu Muryo Jukyo Sanbutsuge. From the Sutra of Immeasurable Life, the verses praising Buddha. May this merit virtue be shared equally with all beings. May we together awaken the Bodhi mind and be born in the realm of serenity and joy. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namam Dam, Namam Dams, Namam Dams, Namam Dams, Namam Dams. From the collected works of Shinran, Chapter 1 of the Tanisho, a record in lament of divergences. Quoting Shinran, alive with the inconceivable working of Amida's vow, I shall realize birth in the Pure Land. The moment you entrust yourself thus to the vow, so that the mind set upon saying the Nembutsu arises within you, you are immediately brought to share in the benefit of being alive, grasped by Amida, never to be abandoned. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Well, here I am, here we are, offering or participating in this last experience. Because everything has a beginning and an end. That's the natural flow of life, that things are constantly appearing, disappearing. So that's the sonomama, or life just as it is. So because 11 and a half years ago, I was given the opportunity to be assigned to the Buddhist Church of San Francisco as the resident minister. And with the aging process, I am now eligible to become a retired minister of the Buddhist Churches of America. And so with that opportunity, I'll be vacating this assignment, this position, and to offer some closing reflections as to what these 11 and a half years have meant for me in terms of engaging together in living the Nembutsu. And in following my little gimmick that I really developed here at BCSF of using acronyms, I'll be reviewing a few of them for today's reflection. So the story that I'm going to offer begins, as much as, we talk about this idea of being on a journey or a path. And in that context, I think it's natural to feel that we have some kind of goal. There is a destination that somehow we're seeking out to arrive at. Whether it's called birth in the Pure Land or whatever other expression you feel comforted by, encouraged by, that's fine. But to begin today's reflection, I thought I'd review the acronym about the goal of this path. Where are we headed? As far as I appreciate this tradition of Jodo Shinshu, as much as, doctrinally or translations and written form, there's talk about birth in the Pure Land. So what does that entail, getting to the other shore? Well, the goal, as I could think of it, is to realize, GOAL, gratitude, openness, acceptance, and liberation. This is how I appreciate the life of Nembutsu, the mindfulness of Nembutsu, is to awaken to what it means to be grateful for this finite experience of our human life. And within that gratitude, it opens up our hearts and minds to realize all the innumerable causes and conditions that have gone into and continue to make this finite existence possible. At the same time, accepting that it's finite, that we do indeed live a mortal existence. But realizing our mortality is also a sense of liberation, spiritual liberation, to realize how unnecessary or even how foolish it is to try to grasp and cling on to a notion of me, myself, and I that we've encased ourselves in as the proverbial cocoon of delusion. And so the spiritual awakening of Buddhism that I appreciate is this idea of liberation. Particularly given our current circumstances, which we continue to refer to as unprecedented. But I don't see that, this pandemic is so-called unprecedented because, historically we read about a century ago, the Spanish flu pandemic and other types of pandemics that have occurred throughout history in various forms. But compounding that, we have here in the Bay Area, the wildfires that were basically started by natural actions of nature, what do you call those lightnings? Those dry lightning shot that triggered those fires. And then we look halfway across the United States and we see the hurricanes that have recently destroyed the southern coast of the United States. And then for decades or for even centuries, we've been in a process of ecological destruction that basically are the result of human ignorance, arrogance, greed. And we unfortunately, recently we observed the 75th anniversary of the atom bombs dropped upon Hiroshima and Nagasaki, still crying out, appealing for some sense of sanity, to be able to discontinue the development of these WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, that are all, to me, an expression of mass insanity. To presume that we can develop and control the other by destroying them or the threat of destruction is completely contrary to the reality, which I think in a certain way the pandemic is helping us to realize, because we're using that cliche now or that slogan, we're all in this together. That's a simple, basic way of understanding the Buddhist insight to our interdependency, or we use the term oneness of our life. So to awaken to the truth, not as a belief or a concept, but as a realization of this is how life is. So anything other than that, we are living in a delusion of our permanence and our ability, our power to control, whether it's the environment that we want to exploit, or whether it's the enemy that we're creating these weapons against. And in my sense, that starts the snowball effect. Once you start creating these weapons, you're kind of ready to use them. I mean, sure, some people have a notion that they're deterrents. We'll create stronger weapons than them, and they'll back down. But what does that do? It actually encourages the so-called them to create even more destructive weapons. So that's the downward spiral that we would have hoped that 75 years ago, people, government leaders could have realized. But sadly, that's not the case. Apparently, we have the technical potential to create even more destructive weapons. And we see them constantly on display in various ways, and that's how the different countries, the different governments presume to demonstrate their authority, their power. That's not liberation. That's, and as much as people are complaining about the pandemic restricting their freedom, Buddhism doesn't talk about physical, social freedom. It's talking about freeing our minds, opening our minds to realize, again, the truth of our connection. And so this idea of awakening was the idea of, and I guess this is kind of become my favorite acronym for, we talk about the goal of Buddhism is enlightenment, realization of the truth, becoming Buddha, awakened beings. But then it occurred to me that, well, that's a nice thought, a nice concept. But for me, I realized that the sense of coming alive resonated for me more. And how that came about was I happened to be hearing a talk about this minister named Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman founded a church not far from the BCSF called the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples. And I've read that he was a mentor to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But anyway, the verse or the saying attributed to Dr. Thurman was, don't ask what people need. Rather ask what makes you come alive. Because what people need are to come alive and go do that. So that kind of inspired me, thinking in terms of what it is to come alive. And so that's the acronym that I think might be amongst the variety. I have a long list of acronyms now, but this might be considered my favorite one. ALIVE, aware, loving, inspired, valued, engaged. So awareness is just what we call listening to the Dharma. aware of the Dharma, the reality, the truth of impermanence and interdependence. And from that realization of the Dharma, the sense of love, which is basically connection, where we share the feelings, the joys and sorrows of each other, empathy. And then that becomes the inspiration to be able to have the spirit of life shared with all beings. Because spirit, as I've discussed, is basically an idea of breath, the breath of life. And that's related to the Hawaiian expression aloha. But also in Japanese, we talk about breath in terms of life, because the Japanese word for live is ikiru. And it was interesting to me when I came across the German word for breath is Atman. And I read that Atman came from the Sanskrit Indian word for being. So in these different cultures, different parts of the world, people had the universal experience of a spirit of life, invisible, formless, colorless, no boundaries. But most significantly for me is that's not what we create. It's not something I can believe, not something I could necessarily comprehend. But undeniably, it is what gives us life, the energy of being. And with that sense of being, SOB, we begin to value this momentary experience that we're sharing together, respecting each other, honoring each other's lives as if they matter, because we indeed matter to each other, because we don't live alone. And that is based upon the sense of being engaged, connected, one with immeasurable life, which is the affirmation of Namo Amida Butsu. So that's the first and last expression of our Shin Buddhist tradition. Namo Amida Butsu is a saying that teaches us that everything we really need in life, we're already receiving. And what makes us Shin Buddhists is to appreciate saying the Nembutsu, that truth, that reality, that sense of being. So with that thought, I'll conclude with the final acronym. Aloha. Aloha. So, aloha is, in the popular usage lately, has been expressed as hello, goodbye, a friendly greeting. But from a Shin Buddhist perspective, I would offer that aloha can encourage us to live aloha, which means actively living, open-hearted awareness. Actively living open-hearted awareness. And with that, we greet each other, sharing that each moment is both the last and first moment that we're experiencing here and now together in the Nembutsu. So, to repeat this kind of adaptation of the translation of the thought of Shinran that began this special text we've been taught to and encouraged to appreciate, that expresses the essential heart mind of Shinran in very succinct messages. So the first thought that the author of that Tanisho offered was this idea. Alive with the inconceivable working of Amida's vow, I shall realize birth in the Pure Land. The moment you entrust yourself thus to the vow, so that the mind set upon saying the Nembutsu arises within you, you are immediately brought to share in the benefit of being alive, grasped by Amida, never to be abandoned. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
一つの灯火が灯ると、次々に他の灯火に火が移されて、尽きるところがないように、仏の心の灯火も人々の灯火に次から次へと火を転じて、永遠にその終わるところを知らないであろう。仏の子らもまたこの仏の仕事を受け持って人々の心を成就し、仏の国を美しく飾るため永遠に働いてやまないのである。ナムアミダ仏。
As the light of a small candle will spread from one to another in succession,
So the light of Buddha's compassion will pass on from one mind to another endlessly.
The children of Buddha, realizing the spirit of compassion, adopts the task of enlightenment.
And passes it on from one generation to another in order to make Buddha's land glorified eternally and forever. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Well, that will bring to a conclusion this week's virtual Sangha service, and will be my last opportunity to join you as the resident minister of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco. So certainly I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation, as I've done for the past several months, the efforts of Keith Kojimoto and Kevin Yoza to provide this virtual video for us to maintain connection at the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, not as the place, but as the space we join together, feeling the connection in this virtual form. And for this week, I guess I don't thank them much, but I will today thank my daughters and my family for joining me on this virtual service to express their appreciation for being part of this community, whether they weren't physically, regardless of whether they were here physically or not, because I was here. They felt that they were here too, because I'd monku to them. No. No, but anyway, yeah, it's been a wonderful 11 and a half years, and I would like to thank everyone throughout that time who've made it possible. And certainly the minister assistance team have been an invaluable base of getting me through this, as I am, but together. And so to Reverend Elaine Donlin, Reverend Dr. David Pading, Camille Pading, Sensei, Leo Balambal Sensei, Leo Joslin Sensei, Reverend Keisuke Lee Miyake, and Jack Dairiki as an honorary sensei. Their contributions and participation is, in my view, the way that brought various pieces of our Sangha together in the big picture. And I would encourage and hope that we continue to support each other on that same sense of being together. Let's see. Oh, then I would like to also acknowledge Mrs. Akemi Yoshimoto for offering a musical selection to close this week's Sangha service. So again, you see all the different pieces, all the different parts working together, ideally, harmoniously, so that the peace of oneness can be realized. And hopefully that peace will expand out into the world to make our world a more physically and spiritually comfortable, meaningful, and precious experience. So just a reminder, or just kind of a heads up, our book club will continue, but there's been some suggestions that we find some alternate day or times to have the virtual gatherings. So stay connected, whether online or you can call in by phone. And I don't know, the Light of Dharma already went out, so we haven't mentioned the plan to adjust the schedule for the book club. But the Wednesday evening 6:30 mindfulness sessions will continue. And then, being that I'll be moving to Portland, I'll have opportunities to share these dates and these activities with people that I interact with up in Portland. And we can make it a broader Sangha. Okay? So let's see. I'm not sure what other announcements to offer, but it's kind of interesting what the causes and conditions are that prevent us from being physically together in any case. And so whether it's unprecedented or not, I mean, this is what it is. So we just make the best out of it, and we'll just keep moving along and wish each other good health, good spirit, good life, living in the light and life of Namo Amida Butsu. So this is my aloha, and thank you again for your dedication in living the life of oneness. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Ready? Let's go. I'm thankful for Big Grandpa. I'm thankful for Amida. I'm thankful for BCSF. The thank yous never end. What are we thankful for? What are we thankful for? What are we thankful for? Thank you, BCSF, for allowing our Father, our entire family into your lives and being one with the BCSF family. with so many of our dad's immediate families spread out in other parts of the country and world, it is an absolute blessing that he has the BCSF family to watch over and care for him. We are thankful that the church has provided him with a loving home for all these years. We are thankful for the church allowing us to live with him for a period of our lives as well. Thank you. What do you say, Layla?
Welcome, Big Grandpa.
Welcome home, Big Grandpa.
Welcome home, Big Grandpa.
サンフランシスコ仏教会の皆様、
温かく受け入れてくださったサンフランシスコ仏教会の皆様に感謝を申し上げます。皆様の理解と協力があったおかげで頑張ってくれたお父さん We love you。 尊いご縁のつながりを通して嬉しい思い出をありがとうございます。
Happy retirement, Dad.
Hello from Beaverton, Oregon. I'm Mindy, Reverend Kobata's second daughter, and I'd like to take this time to thank all of the BCSF Sangha members and Bay Area friends and family for all of the time and support you have provided to my father throughout the years. Since we, his immediate family, could not physically be there for him, you all were his ohana, which means family in Hawaiian, and we, the Kobatas, are very grateful for you all. So, thank you very much. To Reverend Kobata, aka Dad, congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. As my dad, I never knew all the work you did or how well-respected you were until I was approached by church members telling me how much they appreciate all of the work you do and how popular you were amongst the community over there. And I never knew what to say to them when they told me that because to me, you're just my dad. But I'm very fortunate to call you my dad, and I'm very proud to be your daughter. I know you'll miss working, but I'm sure you'll find ways to stay busy. And I'm very excited to have you nearby again and look forward to all the times and experiences we'll get to share together. So again, congratulations and お疲れ様でした。
サンフランシスコ仏教会の皆様へ、レベレン・ランの一人暮らし、そしてメンバーの方にもご迷惑をおかけしましたこと、本当に申し訳なく思っております。メンバーの方たちには大変お世話になり、感謝の気持ちでいっぱいです。今はお会いすることもできませんが、皆様の健康、そして一日も早くコロナが収束することを念じています。Thank you, BCSF, for supporting and taking care of my husband. I really appreciate. I look forward to seeing you all again. Until then, please take care. Namu Amida Butsu. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Akemi Yoshimoto, who will be singing Arigato in Japanese. She will be accompanied by her daughter, Stephanie Patterson, on piano, and this is in dedication to Reverend Kobata for all of his service to the San Francisco Buddhist Church.